Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today is Wednesday, November 5th, and we have had a pretty bumpy road since last we met on Friday. I'm going to tell you what I think about where we are, and uh, in light of new developments regarding the ADP payroll numbers that came out today, has my view on the liquidity picture changed, my outlook for crypto and the broader market. All of that we're going to go over in this live. If you enjoy these lives, then do leave a like. Without further ado, let's get started. What's the button I'm looking for? There it is. It's hiding. All right. So let's look at where the market is at. Russell is up 1.44%. So we did have a rebound today. Yesterday was a pretty tough day for the markets. Generally, congrats to everyone who held in there, didn't panic sell. By the way, if at any point you see the market dropping and you're wondering what I think about it, I'm probably urging you not to panic sell and probably trying to tell you that everything's going to be okay. So if I'm not live on that day, just understand that that's really my message to you. The Dow Jones is up 0.5%, the S&P is up 0.37%. By the way, we're still, we're not at all-time highs. We're not at 6,900. We're at 6,800, but we're not that far removed from all-time highs. So even though it has seemed like a very bumpy road, certainly from going from 69.20 to 67.96 feels like the end of the world to some. But for those who have been through enough market corrections, they understand that this is just par for the course. This is why you get paid in investing, because you have to stomach this volatility. If there was no volatility, you wouldn't get paid anything. NASDAQ is up 0.72%. Again, here with the NASDAQ, we are close to all-time highs. Let's look at some of our favorite names. Tesla's up 4%. We're now at 462. Hey, we might get to 500 pretty quickly. Tesla recently announced they're hiring for night shifts for their Robotaxi, which kind of seems like a contradiction. Why are you hiring for a Robotaxi? But for the time being, there is a sort of safety passenger that's riding along during these trips. But you can see that the expansion of the Robotaxi is actually moving at breakneck speed. We'll soon cover most of the United States. Meanwhile, Waymo is still playing in its geofenced playground, trying to figure things out at 5x the cost. Bitdeer is up 3.47%. We did peak this time around 28. I think we'll be back there probably before the end of the year, and maybe even higher. TSM is at TSM we hold for our dividend portfolio. We're at close to 300 for that. That's been a nice addition to our portfolio. Gold has pulled back from its highs. We were flirting with 4,400 an ounce. Now we're sub 4,000 an ounce. Is it time to add some? Probably. I mean, I think that gold still has a bright future, and silver as well. Same thing. When it peaked at 54, now we're at 48. Might be a good time to nibble a bit. Bitcoin did dip below the very important psychological number of 100,000, and people were losing their minds. We're back at close to 104,000. And I think that considering what we've been through, the largest ever deleveraging liquidation event in crypto's history, I think holding at 100,000 or just about is pretty solid performance for Bitcoin. So maybe it is a store of value. Maybe the thesis was right all along. Doge is at 16 cents, looking pretty juicy at these prices. And speaking of juicy, Pudgy Penguins looks even juicier, I must say, at these prices. I do believe that Sol will recover, and when Sol recovers, Pudgy Penguins will recover as well. All right, let's go to the presentation for today. A bumpy road, as I said. The market remains strong, and the economy remains strong. The private payrolls rose 42,000 in October. It was negative, close to 30,000 in September, more than expected, countering labor market fears. And so the economy is in good shape. I'm not seeing the signs of a recession just yet. Maybe it's around the corner, but I certainly, looking at the economic data that's coming out, I can't really point to clear signs that we're headed there. I think the efficiencies in AI um, are actually canceling out some of the impacts of tariffs, and so we're not having the same amount of inflation that perhaps we expected to have initially when the tariffs were announced, and so that is good. And then also with regards to hiring, 1 month we get a negative number, 1 month we get a positive number, but it's basically a no hire, no fire environment. Like companies are really not uh, incentivized to fire, and they're also not incentivized to hire because with the efficiencies of AI, they're finding out that maybe they can do more with the staff that they already have, and they're not firing because, well, the productivity of each employee that they have is actually increasing. So this asset is becoming more and more valuable. And so overall, the economy seems in pretty solid shape. I can't really see a reason for panic. And then not only that, when you look at the monetary situation, it seems positive. It seems bullish as well. So if you look at these probabilities were taken after the ADP numbers came out. They're at 61% for an interest rate cut in December. So, and 0% again, 0% hike. So, and we just got a 25 basis point cut, and we think that we're going to get 100 basis point cuts over the next 12 months. So I'm really seeing this as a pretty good time to look for good opportunities in the market. You have the monetary policy that's easing. Quantitative tightening is going to end on December 1st. You have an economy that's pretty robust, and you have this revolution, technology in the form of AI. And so I just really don't see the doom and gloom scenarios that a lot of people are talking about, at least not in the near term. I'm going to keep an open mind and make sure that I'm following what's happening, following the data points that come out. But as of right now, I'm not really seeing signs to head for the exits. Certainly, if you look at some of the traditional indicators that we looked at in our last live, they don't suggest that we should be heading to the exits. And when you look at where we've been, and this is from an account called Marty Party. It's actually a pretty good follow on X. And he had a pretty solid post, I feel, where he went over where we've been and where he thinks we're going. And so he mentions that since January of 2024, from January to March 2024, we had the ETF launch. And so we went from 43,000 to 73,000. That's a plus 70% gain. And then we retraced to 53,000. That's a 45% retracement of the appreciation that we got from 43 to 73. And then July to October, we had a post having reaccumulation. So from 53 to 108, that's 104%. And then we had a retracement of around, half of what we gained. So we ended up at 78,000. And then from March to May 2025, Trump Reserve plus rate cut rocket, we went from 78 to 126. That's plus 62%. And now we've retraced to 99,000. It was our lowest point. That's a 21% drop so far. So each contraction shaved around 50% off of the move and lasted 3 to 6 weeks. So we're at a 6-month basically cadence in this year between boom and bust. So the point here is to say, we've been through this before. It's kind of par for the course. But this, if you zoom out a bit, if you're not laser focused on what's happening today and tomorrow and yesterday, if you zoom out a bit, you'll realize that this pattern that we are going through, we've been through before. And considering where we are in terms of the monetary cycle, I think that this isn't the recent pullback isn't really reason for panic. And especially when you put things in context, if you look at what happened on October 10th, we had the largest liquidation in crypto history, the largest deleveraging event in crypto history. We went from around 4.25 trillion in market cap for crypto all the way down to 3.5 trillion. So we lost more than $700 billion in these liquidations and cascading liquidations. And right now, confidence is shaken in crypto. And it's going to take a while for that confidence to build up again, for people to feel like they have enough confidence to take on leverage again. And so, maybe we chop or consolidate for the next week or two, but eventually that confidence is going to come back, especially if we get some movement on the government opening. And we've heard some headlines about that happening. I think that, eventually they'll get their act together and their government will open again. And then, headwinds of yesterday become the tailwinds of tomorrow. And so that will be a catalyst for the market. And the fact that, liquidity is still rising, set to rise for the next few months at least, that really plays favorably for the market. And then if you look at where we are in the fear and greed index, I mean, this is a pretty easy buy. This is a pretty easy call right now. If you look at whenever we're at similar levels of fear in the market, and that's where we are right now, they've always coincided with local bottoms in the crypto market price, whether it's Bitcoin or the crypto market generally. And so right now is really the time when you should be thinking about buying your favorite names. Not financial advice, but if you look historically, that is certainly what this suggests. So sorry, I was going to talk to you guys about the expansion of the Robotaxi. Ignore this headline. But so where we sit right now, this is going back to Marty Party. So Bitcoin is at 99,000, 50% retrace, as we mentioned, of the gain that we experienced between 78 and 128,000. Fear and greed at 28, extreme fear, classic buy zone, as I mentioned. ETF flows are still intact, 1.2 billion this week. 200-week simple moving average is at 62,000, but the commentator doesn't think that we're going that low. Neither do I. I don't see a reason why we should. I think probably the worst of the volatility in this recent sort of pullback is behind us. Again, maybe we chop for a week or two. That is absent, an exogenous event that throws a wrench in everything. But absent that, after a major negative, adverse exogenous event, I think that we chop for a week or two, maybe less than that, and then we should start seeing appreciation again in crypto. Now, next 6 months I thought was pretty interesting, and I don't really see necessarily a strong inclination to oppose this viewpoint. November, December, I've mentioned that I thought that we'd close above 150K at the end of December. I revised my earlier target of 200,000 earlier in the year, just because of where we are right now and the time that we have left in the year. I thought that maybe we get to 150 by December. Here, November, December, Slingshot back to 130, 140K, old high plus 30%, which is pretty reasonable, pretty on par with what we've experienced in previous booms and busts. And then January to February, we have that melt up that I talked about in the last live. We have the blow off top, which is how most bulls end. And he suggests that maybe we get 180 to 220K on nation state FOMO, or perhaps it's just a lot of people realizing the scarcity of Bitcoin, and because it's still the percentage of people that own Bitcoin is very small, And so maybe a lot of people start to realize what we're talking about when we talk about the scarcity of Bitcoin and try to FOMO in. We get to 180 to 220, and then obviously we have, as we always have, a 50% flush. And then maybe we are low in the next sort of round here is 110 to 130. Now, interesting that Marty thinks that maybe we end up at 300 by the end of 2026. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility, certainly. It really depends on what the monetary policy looks like. And so that is really going to drive my expectations for the future. If you haven't joined PIF, make sure to do so. The elite course is done. I published that today. So elite members, you can go and see it, and then we'll have additional lessons, inshallah, every Monday. Every month. The week after we have our portfolio review, inshallah. And so together we will build our knowledge and skill in assessing different opportunities in the market. With that, let's go to questions. Himidir, cool. Always nice to see you. Zeki, nice to see you. Salam, brother. Do you think today ADP report give Fed reason to cut, or it's just a small fraction of job report? Actually, today's report would lessen the likelihood of a cut, so considering the economy is doing well. That being said, whether the economy is doing well or the Fed is cutting rates, I am not sure I prefer one over the other with regards to the market. In fact, I prefer the economy doing well. That means less people are under duress. So they're both bullish. One may take place of the other, but they're both bullish. If one happens, I'm not upset about it. Brandon, nice to see you. Michael Parker, is this the best time to buy? I would say DCA, but if you look at the fear and greed index, you buy when people are fearful. Well, now people are fearful, and so when the time comes to buy, you won't want to. And so that feeling that you have that you don't want to buy is probably a good signal that you should. Not financial advice. Salamat, Dr. Khalid. Nice to see you. Tuning in from my long flight. Free high-speed Wi-Fi on Southwest. Thanks for the entertainment and valuable information. Of course, it's my pleasure. Safe travels, brother Khalid. Salam. Enphase dropped. What do you think about this? Where is Enphase right now? Let's see here. Sorry. Where is Enphase? So actually, there was a pretty solid recovery for Enphase. Recently, but yeah, I do see that it has recently pulled back from its recovery. It took 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That being said, I wouldn't necessarily I think there's a lot of I'm sorry. There's a lot of headwinds for this company, not the least being the competition from Tesla. I think that the general reduction in interest rates is bullish for the company. And so, I mean, interest rates really is what killed this company. The rising interest rates killed this company. It was on a pretty solid run. But then when interest rates started being hiked again, then the company took a nosedive and hasn't recovered since. So I think interest rates falling will be super useful for this company. That being said, the environment today is not like it was a few years ago. There's a lot more competition, and it remains to be seen where Enphase can distinguish itself in a really solid, sustainable way and create a moat for its business. Sorry about that, fiddling around with with TradingView. Assalamu alaikum. Where can I ask you financial questions? See the description for all of our services, brother. Southwest stock is soaring on Dr. Khaled's use of it. Is Pengu a meme? Well, I suppose you could consider it a meme coin, but they actually have real revenues, and they have, a real branding, and I think their execution is second to none. Any thoughts on Upexy? It will recover when Solana recovers. It's a levered play on Solana, so it's going to exaggerate the moves of Solana. If Solana is in the basement as it is right now, so will Upexy. Pengu is a meme cryptocurrency. Okay, yeah. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. Should we start buying AMD? What do you? I like AMD. It's a good company. Probably not as good as Nvidia, but unfortunately, Nvidia has too much ties with the blue entity in the Middle East, let's say. What do you think of buying physical gold? Yeah, do it. Not a bad idea. Is AI overhype and a bubble? No, I don't think so. Certainly some names are in bubble territory, but AI is a overhype? No, I don't think you can overstate AI and the impact that it'll have. Gold price is too high? Nope, they'll go higher. What is your opinion on tariffs? Pretty stupid, but I mean, with generally speaking, but with regards to things that are critical to a state, a country, then you have to have tariffs. Like if a certain if production of something is critical to a country, you like medicines, for example, you need to make sure those happen within your borders, or else they're going to be used as a tool against you eventually. And so that is absolutely critical. But like tariffing, bananas or something, I don't think that's smart at all. What do you think of iron? It looks like it's going to infinity, to be honest, but I think that I wouldn't be surprised if there was a pretty big, repricing of all of these plays. I'm kind of nervous about these plays because basically the bet is that the demand for compute, for the energy for compute, exceeds the supply moving forward. And while I do think that the demand is going to increase extremely quickly, I do think technology, each iteration of these chips is becoming twice, 3, 4x more efficient. And therefore, the amount of, and typically this is what happens, the technology outpaces the increase in demand, and the efficiencies with the increase in or development of this technology makes the supply of the commodity more abundant relative to the demand, despite the growth in demand, and that causes prices to go down over time. So I actually think it would make me nervous to buy at these prices. Not to say it can't go higher, probably can, but I'm nervous because ultimately this is a commodity that you're buying. Powered land. That's really what you're buying. Energized land. There's no proprietary technology associated with it. And the question is whether the technology, the efficiency of the GPUs, the racks, the data centers outpaces the growth in demand, or demand outpaces the improvement in efficiencies of these technologies. And I think historically it's been technology that's outpaced demand. And so that's why I'm nervous when I look at these things. We have a very small position in Bitfarms, but we kind of, just wanted to be part of the party with that position. Love went 6% up. I'm not surprised Dr. Khaled has that impact. Assalamu alaikum. You always talk about Tesla. What other stock do you like that you don't mind sharing? I'll let you know when I have one. if you're a PIF member. BTC supply is limited. All the treasury companies are loading strong, so how the others can buy if there are no sellers, or sellers will always be in the market? Well, everyone has their price, as they say. And so there'll always be sellers, but the question is at what price? What about regional banks and shutdown? I mean, that's, one sort of black swan that may, end up bubbling up. I don't know. But the entire sort of Reba-based system makes you feel like you're sort of on unstable ground at all time. Something bubbles up with regional banks. I'm not necessarily too surprised, but right now I don't really see cause for panic. Do you have stop losses? And I really don't use stop losses, because if I have conviction in something, price goes down, I buy more of it. I don't sell it. I only use stop losses, or would use stop losses, if it was basically a swing trade. And, if the price reached a certain, point, that means my bet is not going to materialize. It's, I bought something for a quick flip, didn't materialize, and so now I want out. But I don't really do that often. Profit targets are we have profit targets on our watch list, and those are prices where you should trim, but they aren't necessarily points where you exit the position completely. Would you buy more UpXi now? I think probably now, if you bought UpXi, you'll do pretty well with it. The only thing about UpXi is, they are a digital asset treasury company, so they're not really producing anything. I shared this view with the PIF members. I'm not really too excited about buying companies that aren't really doing anything. They're not producing any product or service, and so yeah, it's not why I got into investing. I didn't get into investing in order to just make money. Making money is nice, but I'd like to be part of things that are a bit more impactful. So, what do you think about oil prices right now? I think they'll probably continue to go down, as this is another example of technology outpacing demand for a commodity. Is Solana a good or great choice? I think it's a good choice. I don't necessarily think it's a great choice. I'm thinking of it quite seriously for the long term. I mean, ultimately, this is a technology play. And so technologies can be replaced by other technologies. It should move with the NASDAQ. And so, just keep that in mind. If you buy Solana, it's not like, set it and forget it. I think you should keep in mind what else is out there and how things are moving. Dear, cool. Interact with us on our Discord, and interact with us in our monthly meeting for premium members, and in our 2 monthly meetings for elite members. All right, guys. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this live, do leave a like. I'd really appreciate that. Until next time, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum, and peace be upon you all.